Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 74, which actually came to me the other night at about 3 a.m. I was rifling through the paranormal documentary section on my local cable movie provider. And typically I don't venture into the paranormal section because usually you just find a bunch of really dark conspiracy films that are ridiculous and a lot of bad filmmaking. But because I enjoyed the Bob Lazar documentary, I saw that Jeremy Corbell, the filmmaker for the Bob Lazar documentary, had a previous movie called The Hunt for the Skinwalker. And it was all about the Skinwalker Ranch, the Skinwalker monster, all the stories there. And the Lazar film, I want to say this the right way because I do mean it as a compliment, big time. The filmmaking skills from The Hunt for the Skinwalker to the Bob Lazar film, the jump that was made by Corbell is awesome. Because The Hunt for the Skinwalker is a tough watch. It's a tough watch. But trust me, I've made so many bad films and bad shorts and so many edits of films that at the time I thought were good. And I look back and progression and consistency is the key to good work. And I'm complimenting Corbell when I say that the leap to the Lazar film was really monumental because it was a tough watch. I mean, and the reason it is that there's just so much information. It starts to, after a while, feel like kind of like a science project because the film has a major problem, and it's not even Corbell's fault, and I mean this. The problem resides with the case, and that's what I realized. The problem is the case. We've heard so many stories over the years out of the Skinwalker Ranch, from the eccentric owner, Bob Bigelow, who owned a hotel chain and then started Bigelow Aerospace and started working with the government, and now all the government's UFO, inquiries were privatized through his industry, and he owned the Skinwalker Ranch, and all these incredible stories of the things that supposedly happen out there are somehow making their way to the public, which basically means he's got to be the one behind it because no one else could get on the ranch besides a handful of people. And then obviously the guys like George Knapp and, the authors to the book. But the evidence, it doesn't add up. For all the stories and all the claims that are made at Skinwalker, where is the evidence? Now, the one thing this film does, which I'm really glad it did, The Hunt for the Skinwalker, is it kind of breaks down this, Luis Elizondo and ATEP, and the government, releasing these videos and saying that this ATEP government agency spent $22 million on UFOs. Well, come to find out that the government actually spent more than $22 million. There was funding coming from multiple places. The $22 million actually went to have Bigelow's ranch, the Skinwalker Ranch, investigated. They spent $22 million investigating the Skinwalker Ranch. And what do you think they got out of it? Goose egg. Nada. Now, I'm sure they would argue and go, no, we got a bunch of stories, and we got a bunch of accounts, and a bunch of people saw something, felt something, kind of saw something here. I mean, even by his own admittance at the end of the film, Bigelow basically says, there was weird things that happened out there, but he was toying with us. They would just start to happen. It would show it to us, itself to us a little bit, and then it would stop. But I'm sitting here going, $22 million. Jesus, man. I spent under $20,000 on Paranormal and 8 nights in Waverly Hills and got 40 pieces of evidence. I mean, what the hell did you spend $22 million on? And how long did this investigation go for? And how could, if this place is just teeming with activity of all kinds, there's cryptids out there, there's paranormal activity out there, there's UFO activity, there's light anomalies, supposedly there's vortexes, there's all, everything. Everything is supposed to happen at the Skinwalker Ranch. So where's the evidence? Where is the evidence? $22 million spent on investigating this place. Where's the evidence? Or is it possible that Skinwalker Ranch is just a product of mystique that was built by Bigelow? I mean, if you take a step back from it and just go, wait a minute. Some very well-connected, wealthy guy that has a real interest in the paranormal says I own a property in which incredible events happen. And this guy comes off as very intelligent, well-spoken, successful. So people believe him when he speaks. And these stories start circulating of these insane things. And this man also happens to be the head of an aerospace company. And the stories just grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. But yet nobody could come on the property. It's all locked down and nobody's allowed on it. No one's allowed on it. And eventually a few people are allowed on it. And there's a book that's written on it. And then eventually a few other people are allowed on it. And then a few other people. If you're one of those people that find your way onto the ranch through a relationship, a friendship, and you have a short amount of time on that ranch, you don't want to be the person that went to Skinwalker Ranch and didn't have an experience. You want to be the one that did. You want to be the one that did. Remember when I talked about the power of wanting to believe? I'm telling you, man, that's one thing in the paranormal ghost world that you learn right away is just so incredibly important. When someone truly wants to believe in something, they'll find all kinds of reasons, ways, and methods to make things real in their mind. And I'm talking about the same type of mystique would be fostered at a ridiculous level for over 20 years. Bigelow owned, for I think it was 20 years, he owned Skinwalker. And I was like anybody else. I mean, when I heard the stories, I was like, what? They're cattle mutilations and... there's UFOs and there's ghosts, and I was so fascinated. And like everybody else, when I heard that you couldn't just go out there to experience it, I was so let down. I was like, bummer, man, that's like my holy grail. If you would have told me as a young investigator that I could go out there and I would only have one night, would I be open to all kinds of things that would be suggestible? Probably. Whether I want it to be or not, probably. And I'm not saying that there's some kind of conspiracy theory that I'm begging here or not. I don't have one. I'm not doing that. But I'm saying something doesn't add up. Something doesn't add up about Skinwalker. And when I start seeing people, attributing things that are documented as rare, but often occur, like a circle in ice. There's this part of the documentary where this ice is frozen over and 5.5 feet wide, I think it is. It looks like somebody came by with like a scraper or something and just carved out a perfect circle in this water. And they're talking this gentleman that's at the ranch is talking about how this is just so, bizarre and crazy, and who could have done it, and this was clearly done for a reason. The film does mention that this happens all over the world, where ice freezes over, and the actual freeze over will change the direction of the water below or the way that it's flowing, and often it'll create it under the ice, like a whirlpool under the ice, and it'll cut like a perfect circle in the ice. And there's all kinds of videos on YouTube where you can go watch this happen. You could watch it happen. But that's like almost being dismissed, in this documentary, where it's like, yes, that does happen, but whoever made this one, they would have had to have known that it was going to be found soon, because this ice here will be melted by like 2 p.m. I'm thinking, well, maybe, or maybe it just happened naturally this morning, and if it's gone by 2 p.m., it's gone, and no one would know otherwise. And there's interesting things about it. I mean, I thought one of the most interesting parts of the documentary was this. They did an interview with Robbie Williams, the singer. And he's been into this stuff forever. I mean, just forever into UFOs. And if you're in the community, you already know this. You already know that Robbie's into this stuff. I crossed paths with Robbie. I literally was pulling in as he was pulling out of the Assetti Ranch. But it was kind of cool to see his take on everything that's going on, and his views on the whole scenario. And the thing is, all of these things may have happened at the ranch. There might have been a time where, there was a monster out there, some crypto monster that was, shredding anything in its path. And, Utah is a big state. I'm sure there was plenty of either UFOs or test flights, all kinds of stuff done back in the mountains, and especially areas where you have large swaths of land where nobody lives. I mean, that's where they test this stuff. And maybe there is some paranormal stuff going on. There's a lot of land-based Native American religions around there as well, too. I just go back to, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Why is there not a single confirmed photo that is just stellar? I mean, $22 million they spent, and you can't give me a photo? Just a great photo that's real. First generation. Does anybody else think this is weird? Or am I alone on this? And at the end of the documentary, Corbell says, because people have these accounts, this is evidence. These things happen. It's up to you to figure out, how or why, or dismiss it. And I was kind of like, well, hold on. I have a problem with, because they had accounts, then it's evidence. Well, no, it depends on who gave the account. Is it credible? Are there reasons to believe a person would lie, would not lie? I mean, like, there's, the same types of things that you would do in any, like, police investigation, right? And when you sit somebody down to give them an interrogation, you would need to know, is this person sound of mind? Were they sober when they gave this? How was their home life? How was their personal life? I mean, there's, did they have anything they could gain from, making a name off this? There's so many questions that go into play about all this stuff. That's why at the end of the day, whenever I'm hunting for anything, I always have a wave recorder and a camera, and that's it. Because the most impressive things that I could possibly catch are going to be something we can see and or hear. Because then, if we can all agree upon what we're looking at, and that we hear a sound that we all agree sounds a certain way, then we have a starting point that we could all work from. A visual and an audible sounding point. And then we can start trying to figure out what that thing is. When someone just tells me their story, I can't even visually recreate what they're talking about. And I certainly can't hear it. So I don't even know what it is that they're saying happened. So how could I ever possibly explain it? I don't know what it is. And I can't accept a bunch of it's as evidence. A bunch of people saying, it happened, trust me, man, it happened, this happened, that happened, I saw it, I felt it, I knew it. I'm not saying even any of those people are lying either. I'm saying I can't accept all of that as evidence. I could accept all of that as reasons to further investigate. But there's got to be something hard. There's got to be something. Anything. Show me something off Skinwalker Ranch, goddammit. You know? I want to believe. I feel like I'm in the X-Files. I want to believe. I do. I want to believe in everything that I've heard about Skinwalker, but I guess I just realized after watching that documentary, I don't. From what I've seen as of right now, I don't believe that Skinwalker is any more special than any other place. Because I've just heard big stories, you know? It was the same thing as a kid. Eventually, if someone wanted me to keep believing in the beanstalk, I'm going to have to see a photo of that thing popping through the clouds and going to heaven, you know? Like, at some point, I'm not just going to take people's words. And there's a lot of info, too, in that documentary, The Hunt for the Skinwalker. There's so much info. And that's what makes it hard as a 2-hour documentary. When you have 2 hours of no real evidence, you know, 2 hours of a bunch of testimony, basically, more or less, you know. It's hard. It's hard. What made me almost stop ghost hunting is I was like, wow, that just took like 6 months to get one thing. Am I going to spend this much time in my life doing this without any, you know, major events happening, like on film, you know? And to be honest, that's kind of how I felt when this film was over. I almost felt like I wish I would not have reviewed every single piece of evidence in this documentary, full stop, you know, of Skinwalker Ranch being this, you know, magical place that it is, because it's all fascinating, but it's fascinating to a degree, you know. At some point, it just becomes like paranormal Old Testament, you know. It's legend and lore. And now that I learned that they spent $22 million to investigate that place and still came up with jack nothing. I mean, geez, if that doesn't all but kill the mystique in me around that place, then what else would? I mean, what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. If they spent $22 million there and can't even give me one piece of footage, and can't give me more than, well, some stuff happened here and there, maybe kind of showed itself to us, kind of didn't. I mean, I guess my question is, what's any more special about that place than, you know, any other place with big stories? I mean, isn't the Bermuda Triangle just as fascinating, if not more fascinating? I mean, Nevada in general is fascinating, but I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the radioactive tests that we've done. But that's a whole other podcast. But anyways, you know, you guys should, if you haven't read the book, The Hunt for the Skinwalker, you should. It gives you pretty much all the detailed history of the Skinwalker Ranch and all the things that have been reported. And the documentary is kind of it's kind of a a retelling of those historic tales mixed in with like modern investigating to a sense, which, is basically, a bunch of guys sitting around a campfire just hoping stuff happens. And that's the problem with a place like that from a visual standpoint. What do you do besides just go exist in the environment and see what happens? But if you guys want to give it a watch, yeah, the documentary is called the same thing, The Hunt for the Skinwalker. Again, I mean this is a huge compliment. The jump between that to the Lazar documentary was monumental. And I think that's the biggest compliment I could praise. Any filmmaker that just keeps going and keeps getting better and better and better and better with each film that they make. And he definitely did that. From his jump from Skinwalker to Lazar, he definitely did that. So, yeah, you guys tell me what you think. Like I said, I'm not proposing a conspiracy here. I'm just wondering, when it comes to Skinwalker Ranch, do you guys think that there's enough there's enough evidence, there's enough, is there a big enough reason to have this place be this revered? Or is the Skinwalker Ranch basically a product of its own manufactured mystique? Is it the product of one guy owning it, telling large tales, and then locking it down and only letting a few people on it? Because that, my friends, is manufactured mystique. Thank you all for listening to episode number 74. I will be back tomorrow with more. Much love and all the best.